Welcome back, everyone. It's me, Oz, and today we're doing another compilation of Entitled Parents videos from almost 5 years ago. Hopefully you all enjoy these because they've been in the vault for a long time, and as the channel name suggests, they're coming out. Good for them. So as a precursor note, this story was rewritten by one of my Discord admins for me, so thank you, first off, and let's get into it. It's okay if they die, they were just born. Disclaimer, sorry for any misspellings, I do speak English, I'm just a f***ing idiot. And a little note from my admin, hell yes you are. Context, so my mom has a daycare which she runs in our house, and there's this lady which used to bring her 5 kids, 2 5-year-olds, 1 10-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 6-year-old brat to daycare. Usually just 2 or 3 at a time, and about 1.5 years ago, I was 13, going to be 14 at the time, and I'm now 15, my dog had babies, 4 puppies, 3 boys and 1 girl. The day after my dog gave birth, the entitled mother decided to take all 5 of her kids with her and have a chit-chat with my mom for a few minutes. My mother was already stressed with 4 puppies, and now she had to deal with 5 kids and their mother, which doesn't know when to leave. Since you know the background, here is what had happened. Your cast. EM is entitled mother, B is brat, M is my mom, me, the powerful scrumpet boy. It's me guys, it's me. Your story. My mom was busy cooking the meal after we had a long day of taking care of kids and puppies, when the one who shall not be named knocks on our door. My mom opens the door. Oh, entitled mother, what are you doing here? I wanted to come by and say hello. Her children start running in and immediately start making a mess. I see you brought the whole cast. Yep, I decided to bring all of them since I couldn't leave them at home with the husband's name, and you're babysitting anyway, so I thought you wouldn't mind. I guess it's fine. My mom and entitled mother sit down and talk, while entitled mother's kids are running around the house. Meanwhile, I am with my dog, watching those puppies like a hawk. Brat approaches me and asks a question that I had underestimated the power of. Can I hold one of the puppies? Sorry, Brat, the puppies have to stay with their mom right now. Aw, but it would be just for a second. I'm sorry, but the puppies have to be with their mom. Brat then crosses arms and goes back to his mom. Now, this might be my first post, but this is not my first interaction with an entitled parent. And his mom just looked at me with a nice smile and says, "And can you please let Brat hold one of the puppies? He's good with dogs." I'm sorry, entitled mother, but the puppies were only born yesterday and they need to be with their mom. Oh, come on, they'll be fine. My son's right, you can't touch the babies when they've just been born. Oh, but your son is touching them. She then looks at my mom like she caught her lying about something. But I'm wearing gloves and not removing them from the cage. I'm just helping my dog feed them. Just so you know, I was moving the puppies my dog's breasts whenever they couldn't find it and they were in a cage, because this was the safest place for them to be. And also, my dog gave birth inside the cage, so... Well, just give him a pair of gloves. I'm sorry, entitled mother, but your son can't pick up the puppies. Entitled mother then glares at me and starts talking to my mom again, while Brat is still standing next to her, angry. As my mom was talking to entitled mother, she looked like only half listening and seemed to think about something. Then my mom went to the kitchen to get back to the food she was still cooking, and entitled mother started grinning and whispers something to Brat, who looked really happy, so I got suspicious. I now have my guard on the puppies at 110%, while Brat walked past the cage about 5 times. My mom called me to the kitchen and I started moving, still keeping an eye on Brat and the puppies. When I get to the kitchen and my mom is passing me some food, I hear a quiet whimpering. I immediately drop the food and run to the cage. I see Brat with one of the puppies in his hand and my dog looking confused up to him. I said not to pick up the puppies. Please put it back. No, just let him. I said to your son that he is not allowed to touch the puppies. Are you saying my son can't be gentle with some damn puppies? Meanwhile, he's flying the puppy around like a toy plane. When I decide to go and get the puppy back from him and are just about to grab it, he throws it at the cage. The puppy screams in pain. What the f are you doing, you little shit? Brat then tries to stomp on the puppy. I run towards him with the intent of smacking him, but my dog beat me to it and bites him very hard, cutting through his skin. As Brad starts screeching in pain, my dog picks up the puppy and helps it to stop crying. "Your rabid dog just bit my son." My dog only bit your son because he threw her baby at the cage. Who cares if it dies? It was just born. Now, that got me really mad. Me, my mom, and the dog would care. Now get out of our house, you bitch.
How dare you call me a bitch? OP's mom, control your child now.
My mom was busy checking if the puppy was okay. He was perfectly fine to our relief. "I am so sorry, entitled mother. Son, say that you're sorry and go to your room." Now, you might be thinking that my mom was crazy, that she didn't see what happened, but just by looking at her, I knew what was about to happen. Well, not the exact plan, but close enough. I went down the hallway and peeked around the corner. I saw my mom fixing up Brat's wound when she brings up all the money entitled mother owes us from bringing her kids here today, and all the freebies that my mom gave her. Turned out she owed us $5,000. Entitled mother went crazy, but quickly stopped when my mom gave her a look that literally could kill gods. Entitled mother then reluctantly took out her checkbook and wrote one for the money she owed. When she was about to leave, my mom told her if she ever comes near her, me, or our dog again, she would beat her ass so bad that she would be sore for years and that it would be double if the check bounced. Entitled mother then left in a huff with all her kids and said she would sue us for assault of a minor and animal abuse. I guess she either forgot or knew she had nothing on us because she never came back. Entitled mom confused about escalators. Background. I was at the mall yesterday that has 2 floors. There's a middle section of the mall that has an up escalator and a down escalator with a Starbucks store in the middle. However, the store is not that tall, so you can see the escalators on both sides. All I'm going to say is I seriously hope what I saw was not real. But by the way people were staring, I think it was real. Characters. EM is entitled mom, for anyone new on the subreddit. SG security guard. H, husband of entitled mom. Know me? I didn't talk because I was so flabbergasted at this story my mouth dropped to the floor. Entitled mother tries to walk up the down escalator but can't get up the stairs. I'm about to say something because I think she might be tired or distracted and not realize what the hell is going on. But then screams for security guard. "Why are these stairs preventing me from going upstairs?" That's the down escalator, ma'am. They're used to bring people downstairs. "But I want to go up these stairs." Take the escalator just over there. No more than 10 to 20 steps. "But that's too far. Why don't you just change the direction of the escalator? It's too far to walk, and I have to go to my baby upstairs." "Where's your child?" "Upstairs with my husband, duh. Now change the direction of the escalator." "I can't." "It wouldn't be that hard." You could have been upstairs by now if you just used the up escalator. Let's not waste any more time and go up the up escalators. "I want to speak to your manager." He's literally going to say the same thing. Husband now appears on the top of the escalator, with kid being neutral, going down the down escalator. "Honey, what's going on?" "This man will change the escalator." "What do you mean?" "The escalator's going the wrong way." "Oh, there's another escalator right there that are going up." As if she sees it for the first time. "Oh, thank you, honey." Goes to the escalator and rides up it with child. At this point, I leave, so I don't know what happens afterwards. Part of me really wants to believe that this is fake, but sadly, I know for a fact that there are people who don't know how escalators work. And if you're one of those people, you should totally 100% go on them with flip-flops on. Because nothing bad'll happen. Being famous doesn't mean you own the clinic or doctor. My mom just reminded me of this one. I tried to convince her to create her own account and share it, as I don't remember the conversations word for word. Didn't get logged in the memory that well, but she just gave me a dirty look and called me batshit crazy. So I guess it's my job to share it. Can I just say my mom's the best? Long backstory, but it's worth it for the EP famous person tantrum at the end. I talk about him all the time, but for those of you who haven't heard me babble about him, my little brother was multiply and severely disabled. He wound up passing away at the age of 10, but his 9 3/4 years between his brain injury and him passing were full of a lot of bizarre, crazy, and often entitled run-ins. When he was 1, we moved back to be with my parents' families, within an hour drive of a major, very highly respected children's hospital. Prior to this, my mom was making a 6-hour drive to get him to the correct doctors, so the move was good for everyone. This meant, however, that we were now, unbeknownst to us, using the same children's hospital, CH, as a celebrity's child. Our cast: Dewey, the best little brother ever. EP, the celebrity and entitled asshole of our story. IC is innocent child, aka EP's kid. They were never rude or entitled around me. Plus, some assorted front desk clerks who shall be referred to as clerks. My little brother and innocent child were diagnosed with cystic fibrosis only a few months apart. For Dewey, the diagnosis was a complete shock. We had no family history of the disease and he was already brain damaged. What force in this universe thought it was fair to make him deal with both things? For innocent child, the diagnosis was also a shock as their family also had no history of the disease. Back then, the average life expectancy for kids with CF was the late teens to early 20s. It's now much longer, thankfully, but things were a lot worse 26 years ago. Entitled parent threw himself into trying to raise money for research, a noble enough cause, except he then used those connections to get his kid top priority with everything, whether or not they needed it. This culminated in entitled parent donating a bunch of money to the hospital for a new CF clinic. Once again, sounds noble on the surface, but the reality was so very different. Around this time, my baby brother had started wearing leg braces and using a wheelchair when out of the home. He also was nonverbal, flapped his arms when excited, drooled, and was generally a goofy kid. It was very obvious something was very wrong with him if you spent even a few minutes with him. We got used to the odd looks, so none of us were paying attention when the looks in the CF clinic waiting room were consistently those of panic and not just confusion. The clerks finally told us that people with newly diagnosed infants and toddlers would come in, see Dewey, then have a panic attack convinced their kids would end up like Dewey. The staff spent a lot of time trying to calm these parents and explaining to them that the little boy in question also had brain damage totally unrelated to his CF. After several minutes of conversation between my mom and the clerks, it was decided that instead of sitting in the waiting room with everyone else, we would be left to wait in an exam room in the back. Wait times could top 3 hours there, so the clerks were fine with me coming out alone to the waiting room to play with toys, watch TV, or get books to take back. On the fateful day in question, entitled parent and innocent child arrived, checked in, and been told the wait would be 1 to 3 hours. About 30 minutes later, Mom, Dewey, and me walked in, checked in with the clerk, then were immediately taken into the back. This did not sit well with the entitled parent. He apparently tried harumping and angry looks for the first few minutes before laying into the desk clerk. I had gone out to grab a book and came back to where Mom and Dew were waiting and told her some really big man was yelling a lot. Mom was curious and bored, so she told me to play with Dew and slipped out of the room. I never heard what happened until years later, but my mom remembers it very well. Entitled parent was screaming, and I mean screaming, at the top of his lungs at the desk clerks. How dare they make his precious angel wait while some stupid, really cool Dewey was seen first? Didn't they know who he was? Then he started yelling about how he donated all this money for a new clinic because innocent child deserved it better than the dirty old clinic that used to be there. It was spotless, just out of date. And how donating money meant he should never have to wait for anything ever. He'd only done the fundraising and media interviews so that innocent child could be on the drug trials, whether or not he qualified, get instant help at the hospital, not how that works, bud, and so that innocent child could get a double lung transplant without waiting. First off, back then, lung transplants for CF were rare, and second off, the feds controlled those wait lists, so not how that works either. He apparently ranted and raved until a clerk was literally dialing security. He finally lowered his volume but kept telling everyone who worked there how they all sucked, and he'd tell the doctor to fire everyone. He was truly convinced that a donation meant he had the power to decide who worked there. Mom apologized to the clerks at our next visit a few weeks after this. They assured her that it wasn't her fault, entitled parent was just a giant asshole, and he was always like that. Apparently the hospital had told him before he made his donation that he wouldn't get some of the things he was asking for in return, but he didn't listen to them. Mom asked if he'd calm down when finally told we were, in fact, still waiting, just out of sight. The clerk laughed, winked, and said they'd never told him. He'd been so rude to them for so long that all the staff let him think someone had gotten preferential treatment over him just to piss him off. Morals of the story: being rich and famous doesn't mean you get everything you want, and don't piss off the front desk clerks at a doctor's office. They control everything. In the comments below, y'all should tell me who you think the celebrity was, because, I think it could be quite a few of them. Entitled mother wants me to hand my gun to entitled kid. Excuse me, what? So, a bit of backstory. I work for an event firm where we mostly do medieval fantasy type events. Monsters, elven princesses, heroic knights, and shining armor, etc. But on every so occasion we get hired for modern stuff. Usually either scientists or military personnel. Cast lists: me is me, EK is entitled kid, EM is entitled mom, SC is scientist. We gotten hired for a city fair kind of thing, in a city that has a lot of focus on UN climate goals. So the company that I work for hired to bring 4 people, 2 scientists and 2 environmental policemen, myself being a police, so I bring my rifle and pistol, of course with all the necessary paperwork, to the event. So I show up there, meet with my colleagues, and we dress up. Full uniform, vest, pistol by my hip, and rifle over my chest. I go with one of the scientists and the other officer goes with the other. Our job is pretty easy: walk around and talk to people about the environment and what sort of things people can do better. And of course, a lot of people ask me about my guns, and as this is all a big show we put on, I of course tell them my guns are real and loaded. Which they aren't. Most people seem to believe me, and believe that I was in fact a police officer from the UN Environmental Commission. And the day is going pretty well, until entitled kid, about 12 years old, shows up. Entitled kid: holy crap, those guns are cool! I have a lot of Gucci gear that I slap on my rifles for these kinds of things: lights, lasers, grips, flashlights, etc. Agreed. We start the usual, why are you having guns? Have you ever shot someone? What does this thing do? Etc. type of conversation. Can I hold your gun? No, these are dangerous tools and should only be handled by those who know how. But I know how to use a gun. I've played thousands of hours of Battlefield. Playing a video game ain't the same as using a gun in real life. Entitled kid gets mad and runs off. Scientist asked me what that was about, so I gave him the brief, when suddenly entitled mother comes walking. I didn't notice entitled kid to begin with, but I quickly saw him and realized what was going to happen. Why won't you let my son hold your guns? Because, ma'am, as I told your son, guns aren't toys, and they should only be handled by... Stop talking like I'm a child. I'm older than you, lad, and I'm telling you, my son knows how to use a gun. He plays all those shooter games. Ma'am, I'd prefer if you didn't call me lad, and yes, it's quite likely that you're older than me, but that doesn't change the fact that I know how dangerous guns can be. And your son is just simply not trained in how to use one. The conversation continued for a while, and I must admit, I got pretty angry in the end. And suddenly, I feel a harsh tug on my pistol holster. I turn around, and lo and behold, entitled kid was trying to snatch my pistol from the holster. Fortunately, he doesn't know how pistol holsters work, so he didn't know where to find the button that allows you to actually draw the pistol. So, I grab his hand and yank it away from my gun. Entitled mother begins screaming, but quite frankly, I paid her little mind as I told entitled kid to never touch a firearm without permission. He of course begins crying, and entitled mother gets all up in my face and starts screaming at me. At this point, I get very angry and begin screaming back at her. I'm 193 centimeters tall and weigh about 110 kilograms, and I ain't sure whether my size scared her or she just never had anybody yell at her. Either way, she got quiet. As I yelled about how her kid could have gotten himself or someone else killed by doing what he did, as well as explaining how COD and Battlefield don't teach anything about guns, and several curse words sprinkled in there. At this point, the on-site security comes running over and asks what's going on, so I turn around and tell them about how entitled kid had tried to take my gun. Entitled mother screams about how I assaulted her, as well as entitled kid. Fortunately, as she says this, about 10 people around us more or less go "Yeeaaaaahhhh" in unison. Several of the people around us explained to the security guard what had happened, so entitled mother and entitled kid got escorted away. Then, out of the blue, comes the other scientists and the police officer. Only having heard me screaming my lungs out, the other scientist, who is also my boss, was obviously quite worried, but security was still there to explain what had happened. Ended up with my boss not wanting real firearms for these events anymore. Even if unloaded, they're as safe as any prop gun we could use. But if it's a prop gun or airsoft, it's easily replaceable with insurance, which a real firearm very certainly is not. I think the scariest part of this is how little information the entitled mother actually knows about firearms. And if she actually knew anything about them, she would not let her kid touch it, because they are not toys. No, your hellspawn cannot feed my ferret that. I want to preface this by saying I know emotional support animals do not have the same rights as service dogs, and no, I don't take advantage of having one. I have cleared taking my big boy with me several places that I frequent, and he has permission to be there, such as my therapist's office and the local mall. I don't just take him places he should not be. I honestly really need my boy with me for places crowded like the mall or overly emotional like my therapist's, as I have severe anxiety and PTSD. Anyway, this particular time I needed the Apple Store at the mall. I was getting my battery placed in my phone. Cast of characters are as thus: Big Boy, BB, my good ferret boy. EM is entitled mom, LS is little shite or entitled kid, and of course, me. So I dropped my phone off at Apple and it was going to take some time, so I sit outside of the store on some couches. BB is in his bag carrier that looks like a purse and has mesh sides for him to look out. He was fast asleep, just keeping chill with my calm presence. After a bit he woke up and peeked out at me, curiously, as he does because he's a ferret. Everything is interesting and has potential to be stolen and stashed. I saw no harm in taking him out as he is well trained, never bites, and he was in his harness on a lead and I was going to be holding him in my lap anyway. So I take him out and settle him on my lap for some snuggles, which are his favorite. A mother and her young son holding a mall food court pretzel, this is important later. Entitled mother and entitled kid walk over curiously as ferrets are not a common pet where I live. What's that? Oh, this is BB, my ferret. Oh, is it safe for us to pet him? Kudos on you, you actually asked before reaching a hand out to pet someone else's animal. Let's reward this behavior. I don't see why not, he's super friendly and he loves people. Let me show you. I demonstrate how to gently stroke his long soft back, as even though he never bites, I thought maybe keeping strangers away from the sharp teethy bit of my ferret would still be prudent. Entitled Kid is really excited because he has never seen a ferret before and he strokes BB's back, and I am pleasantly surprised how gentle he is. Entitled Mother gives me a few curious pats but then turns to me and starts chatting to me about what having a ferret is like. It's awesome. Is it a good pet for her precious entitled kid? No, not really a great pet for kids if you don't want to take on most of the responsibility yourself. They are a lot of work. Do they really smell? Not really if you have them on the right diet and clean their cages regularly. Again, they are a lot of work and can be expensive. I still have BB on my lap and Entitled Kid is petting him and I'm watching out of the corner of my eye even as my head is torn to talk with Entitled Mother. Entitled Kid is holding that mall food court pretzel in his hand that isn't petting BB, and I catch the movement of him tearing a little piece off and holding out to BB. I react fast and pull BB away from LS. Please don't try to feed him that. He can't eat anything that is not meat or it will make him sick. Please don't try to feed him again or you won't be able to pet him anymore. Entitled Mother acts as if I just spat fire at her entitled kid. Why can't he feed him a little bit of his pretzel? It will hardly harm it and it will make Entitled Kid so happy to be able to feed the ferret. He has never gotten to feed one before. There is no need to be so mean about it. Actually, it will harm him. Ferrets are obligate carnivores, meaning they cannot eat carbs, fruits, or vegetables or anything like that. They cannot digest them and can only have raw meat, raw egg, and other specialty formulated kibble. You can cause great gastric distress and the runs by feeding him even a little of that pretzel to him, because he cannot digest it. Mommy, I want to share my pretzel with the ferret, he whined. Seriously, why do people want kids? Their voices are like nails on a chalkboard sometimes. It's okay, baby, you can feed a little piece to the ferret. A little piece won't do any harm. Go on, entitled kid, share your pretzel with the ferret and show how nice and good you are at sharing. Entitled kid bounces excitedly and holds the bit of pretzel out to BB again. Thankfully, ferrets imprint on their food at around 6 months, so BB had no idea he was supposed to eat the offering because it didn't register as food to him. But entitled kid kept shoving it in his face, trying to get him to take it. I quickly, but gently, put BB back into his carrier, settle him with his toy, and close it so he is safe, and stand up to leave. No, he can't share his pretzel with BB. I am not going to put him through an awful stomachache and have Lord knows how much in vet bills because your trophy wants to share. You want to interact with someone else's pet, you respect their boundaries. I then walked back into the Apple store. I could hear her yell at me to come back, and I could hear entitled kid crying on the top of his lungs. But I was beyond caring about being nice. You don't put my BB in danger because your crotch goblin wants to feed him something that will hurt him. His want does not trump my BB's needs. My pet, my baby, is not communal property. That's a lesson the two of them are better off learning sooner rather than later. And now for a nice picture of the ferret. There you go, look at him down there in his little bear. Cute little guy. Entitled mother thinks I should sell her my service dog for not letting her daughter distract her. Okay, a little bit of backstory. I am almost completely deaf, but I have a pair of hearing aids so I can basically hear quiet whispers. I also have a service dog called Piper. She's a big black lab that I was matched with because I'm very active. Anyway, rules are, when a service dog is wearing their vest, you cannot distract them with petting and such. Kay is her kid. The kid is young and just curious, so I wouldn't call her entitled. Me, I'm a 16-year-old dude. So I was in the park just after my morning run, and I was walking with Piper home. It was a Saturday morning, so I was in no rush to be anywhere. I'm holding onto Piper's harness when she stops and faces towards something. This means that there's someone or something that needs my attention. When I look around, a woman and her kid are walking up to me, and the woman doesn't look very happy. The entitled mother looks at me and Piper and kind of thrusts her kid towards me. Now, this girl looks really shy and comes up to me with a scared expression on her face, which is actually quite cute. I'm a pretty good lip reader, so I can understand most people, but this girl was about 4 and I presume she had a lisp, which made me a little slow to decipher her words. Excuse me, can I pet the doggy? Now, I'm a sucker for a cute face, and although you aren't supposed to let people distract a service dog, I wasn't in a rush, and the pout the girl gave me when it took me a while to respond was heartbreaking. I'm basically melted butter at this point. Okay, but just for a little bit, she's working and we can't distract her. I smiled at her as her face lit up, as she reached over to rub Piper's head. She started being all cute by talking to Piper. I could make out little things like, "You're a nice doggy, I like you," and "Your coat is really pretty." She was talking about Piper's service vest. So we sat around in the grass for a little while as the girl asked me things about my dog, until... "Can we play fetch?" "Sorry, sweetheart, but Piper has to stay with me so she can look after me." The girl then asked why, and I explained that my ears didn't work and she accepted that. At this point, I decided I should probably head home as I'd been out for a while. As I turned to leave, the entitled mother started tapping my shoulder. "Can I help you?" "You need to let my daughter play with your dog." I tried to explain to the mother that I am deaf and that Piper is my service dog, so I can't let her do that. At this point, entitled mother gets mad. "Fine, I'll give you $50 for him. Get a new dog. You can understand me just fine, so you're obviously not deaf. Just a Oof. Fuck. I was shocked. This woman wanted to take Piper. What? "I'm sorry, but I can't do that. I need Piper." "I'll give you $100 for her." That's pretty much what it costs to look after her for a month, so no thank you. At this point, I just turn and leave, but the entitled mother follows and grabs Piper's harness. I wasn't holding onto it at the time. Piper is very protective and is rather confused, so she starts growling at the woman. "That's okay. Once he's neutered, that aggression will fade." "What the F, lady?" "There's a 4-year-old, come on. I'm not actually gonna swear, dude. Give me my dog back. She's not even a boy and has already had a hysterectomy." At this point, a man walks past his own dog. P, friendly passerby. "Is everything okay?" "No, this brat is trying to steal my daughter's service dog." At this point, I'm facing away from P. He must ask for me because eventually he comes around to my side and his eyes land on my hearing aids. Also, Kid is trying to get her mom to give Piper back. given your daughter is trying to return the dog and this man is obviously deaf, I think you better return the dog. Fine, but get ready to hear from my lawyers. Seriously, here? The entitled mother storms off, leaving Piper at my feet, so we all go our separate ways after I thank the man for his help. Sorry this was kind of long, but people like that really get on my nerves. What's up with this recent trend of people not knowing what a service dog is, or the fact that usually people who have service dogs actually need them? Entitled parents sit down 5 minutes to closing. EP is entitled parents, me is me, B is boss. So this isn't one of those crazy stories, but it's one that stuck with me for a while, and it's always fun to tell. Admittedly, I was a bit of an asshole. Backstory: I used to deliver pizza, it was my first job ever, and I honestly did it all through high school, and even to this day when I go to the pizza joint / bar, my old boss will ask if I want to run pizza for the night for under the table pay. It's not the most popular joint, and honestly the bar makes way more money than the eatery, but it was a good job most days. I have a lot of weird stories from working there: fat sexual deviants and skin-tight leather, offers of sex, angry customers, offerings of weed for a tip, stalker girls who found out my schedule, etc. But I digress. The story from today is from a school night, a Sunday. It had been a slow one, and I had only had a single delivery, and basically no one came in that day. So we took the opportunity to deep clean the whole place, bleach and all, pulling out the fridges and scraping on our hands and knees. Everyone slowly leaves one by one until it's just me, waiting out the clock to lock the doors. Entitled parents walk in 5 minutes to close. Hey, are you guys still open? Me, a teenage kid wanting to go home. Kinda. We close in a couple minutes and I was just gonna lock up. Oh, good. We made it. They walk past me and tell me the pizza and cheesy bread they want. I shrug, as I'm not really used to telling adults off at this point in time, and make their pizza. As I'm dirtying up the kitchen again, the father walks up to the counter and says, excuse me? Yeah? Aren't you going to ask us what we want to drink? I look at him, flabbergasted. I had fully expected them to be a carryout since I told them we're supposed to be closed. Nope. Mom and her 2 kids were sitting at a table and they had to get chairs down for which were previously stacked neatly. A bit stunned, I get them drinks. I bring out their pizza, now 30 minutes past my shift, and annoyingly go clean up the mess I'd made. Excuse me, could we get some refills? The service here is horrible, she mumbles to herself. At this point, I'm fed up. They've been eating for about 20 minutes. I'm ready to go. I start mopping up their mess, asking them to move their legs so I can get the crumbs they drop. They get huffy, and I, now tired and grouchy, thinking about class the next day, pull out an extra chair and stare them all down until they finally, uncomfortably finish their meal. An hour by myself with these people. They went to my boss the next day, and from what I'm told, it went like this. And that's how your employee treated us. Wow, you guys left him a big tip, right? Excuse me? Kid's in high school. He had school today and you kept him working for an hour. He didn't have to serve you, and honestly, I would have just told you to leave as we were closing, if it were me. Entitled parents stormed out and never went back there. Even though I haven't worked in fast food for almost 2 years, I still get nightmares from people who used to do this. It's honestly, if you want to get a bunch of people to hate you really fast, just go into any fast food restaurant 5 minutes before close. That's all you gotta do. Child wants to play with my heart monitor. I prefer to lurk and read on Reddit rather than post, but I do have something to contribute to this sub. It's not super dramatic or climactic or anything, and I'm not going to embellish it, exaggerate, or fabricate anything just to make it seem more interesting. But anyhow, here is my experience with a stranger, EM, who I'd seen around before, small town, and her child who was probably 5 or 6 years old, EC. So I have a heart condition and my cardiologist frequently has me wear a Holter monitor, which is a type of heart monitor that you wear for a certain amount of time. My cardiologist usually does 48 hours for me, and it's basically a constant EKG. I get them every several months or so to keep tabs on my rhythm disorder. You cannot take the monitor off during the time you're supposed to have it, so you can't shower while you're wearing it, which is annoying. If you remove any of the leads, it messes with the EKG results. Whenever I'm wearing one of these, I dress accordingly to hide it, high neck, etc. This was a summer day and I was wearing a shirt that I thought covered the leads well. Unfortunately, my bag kept pulling the left edge of my neckline down lower, and I was constantly tugging it back up. I was at a pharmacy to pick up a few things. There was a mother and her young son in the store. The child was acting bored and impatient while his mother shopped. I ended up getting in the same aisle as them momentarily. I leaned down to grab something off a lower shelf, and gravity pulled my bag downward and slid my neckline down with it. Before I had the chance to pull it back up, the little boy noticed it and approached me. I smiled and said hi to him. I never want to be rude to people, especially children, so I oblige with any conversation they may start. "What's that thing on you?" "Oh, it's a little machine that checks my heart." "Why?" "My heart is sick, so my doctor wants to make sure I'm okay." "Can I touch it?" You can look, but please no touching." The mother turns and comes over. "What's the harm in him touching it? He's just curious." I don't want to stifle his curiosity, I just don't want my monitor reading to get messed up and give me false results. It's very important that the leads stay on. "Is it glued to you?" "Look, it's glued. It's not gonna come off. Just let him check it out. He's never seen one before. Go on, honey. Take a look at her cool gizmo." Yes, that's the word she used. Well, it's not actually glued and it could get accidentally pulled off. I guess you can touch it if you're really careful. Please don't take the stickies off. Entitled Child starts investigating it for a moment. He luckily was very careful as I told him to be. I thanked him for that and said, "Good job being careful." Now Entitled Mother comes over and starts investigating it. She asks me a bunch of questions about it, like whether I had a hole in my heart and things of that nature. She takes notice of the little monitor box that I have tucked away in my pocket, which Entitled Child then starts trying to take out of my pocket. He accidentally drops it and it falls, pulling hard on the wires. I gasped and grabbed it, hoping that none of the leads came loose or anything. Luckily, none did. I told them I had to go and got away from them. I thought it was pretty rude that the mom insisted on letting her young child mess with somebody's medical device. Maybe I should have been more vocal about why, and I should have been more assertive, but I'm one of those people who can't say no to anybody, and I honestly tend to let people walk all over me. I'm lucky my monitor didn't come off, and I'm very glad that the interaction wasn't dramatic. It could have been worse. That kid's probably gonna grow up not knowing what the word no means.
Let my kids break your expensive shit because they're kids.
So picture this. It's Thanksgiving, and you're relaxing in your room alone because you don't really know most of your relatives visiting you anyways. All of a sudden, Snow White and the 7 little jits break into your room. They all make a beeline to your most expensive stuff because why not? A Wii, an Xbox, and several expensive guitars are now in the hands of snotty toddlers, which wouldn't be too bad if they knew how to use the damn things. Instead, you've got kids pulling your game consoles out of the shelves with no regard for any cords, and you've got kids furiously strumming like hell on your guitars. One of the strings even popped, before eventually trying to beat each other over the head with them. I've been yelling at them this whole time, but as soon as I see that last part, I snatch a $300 guitar out of the kid's hand and ask him what the hell he thinks he's doing. Then he starts to bawl, and good God, it was loud. Enter Entitled Parent, Act 2, Scene 1. "What'd you do to make my little boogums cry?" He was about to yeet the heck out of my guitar and crack that kid's head with it. I'm guessing she went completely deaf from her own kids crying because she doesn't seem to have heard the last bit. Instead, she goes on about how I should let her kid play with and break my stuff because kids will be kids. I try to explain to her that these aren't toys, and try to explain how hard I work to be able to buy them. Again, she's completely deaf to it, and literally tells me it's not her kid's problem before leaving. Exit Entitled Parent. Act 3, Scene 1. So, I did what any sensible person would do. I crowded all my stuff on my bed and sat next to it, guarded my newfound fortress with a BB gun, which was, unbeknownst to them, completely empty, and a rolled up poster for the rest of the night. The end.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
I'm your mother, therefore my opinion matters most. I haven't seen many posts here about people's own parents, so I thought I'd share mine. For context, I'm 19, in uni, and live away from home. I'm independent now, and my mother yesterday reminded me why I was so happy to now live alone. She came up to visit for the day, using the train, leaving my brother and father at home. I was going to meet my mother at the train station. I got there 10 minutes early to make sure that I was in time and that she wouldn't complain at me for being late. Of course, though, she could now complain about that, but it didn't stop her complaining about how terrible your hair looks and how you need to get it cut, so I'll book an appointment. Right now, this just looks like her being overbearing, which she is, horrendously so. This went on for another 4 minutes till we got to my flat. Then her complaints were, your room is too messy and why isn't the kitchen clean? Despite the fact that I'd spent hours cleaning my bedroom before and I shared my flat with 4 other people who could have easily been the culprit of the messy kitchen instead. I kinda just blanked her out at this point, till she started on my hair again. Now, I stood up for myself. Well, I like my hair like this, I argued with her, but she refused to listen. No, it looks terrible. We're going to have to change it, get the bangs sorted out. I don't know why I thought you should go to the hairdressers on your own. Clearly you can't describe what you want enough. Now I was pissed. See, the thing is, I'd cut all my hair off recently out of stress over the idea of her coming here, amongst a few other things. My boyfriend had helped me sort it out, but I'd gone to the hairdressers to get it cut neater since surely she wouldn't complain then. All the things she was saying made it seem like she expected for it to grow back overnight. Well, I like it like this, I tried to defend myself. Well, I don't. I'm your mother and I say you need to get it sorted out. All of my friends said they liked it though. Loads of my course mates have said it suits me. Well, I'm your mother, she replied, and I don't like it. My opinion matters most. I had to go do something for half an hour for uni, and I had to leave. My mom wanted to stay and said that I should give her my keys. After all, I could be trusted with them because I'm your mother. I lied and made up some bull about liability to get her to leave at the same time since I knew she'd look through my stuff and I definitely didn't want her to find my adult toys. I told my boyfriend what she said. He was pissed and so wanted to join us for the remainder of the day. Even though he and my mom have a rocky relationship, him being female to male, my mom being a Christian. Yeah, I was so glad he joined. He argued with my mom at every angle, subtly, but still defending me. I think what he said to me when she went to the bathroom perfectly described her. Your mom is a bitch. Other adventures in the day, my mother accidentally calling my boyfriend girl twice. My boyfriend made a big deal over holding out an umbrella for me so I wouldn't get wet in response because that's what good boyfriends do. My mom glaring at my boyfriend for defending that he liked my hair, amongst other things. My mother spending all her time seeing me complaining. My boyfriend being the only one who inquired as to whether the uni thing went okay. Oof, that awkward moment when your little angel hates you just as much as the internet does. Entitled Mother says I don't need my crutches and her lovely son should have them. Little background, this happened a month ago, so this is still pretty fresh in my head. I'm a 16-year-old male, around 5'10 to 5'11, and I had a recent trip to the doctor's office after finding out that I had an infection called cellulitis. I received crutches since it was incredibly difficult to walk. Anyways, let's get on with it. EM is entitled mother, EK1 is entitled kid, EK2 is entitled kid, me equals M, my brother B, my mom, mom. Anyway, as I previously mentioned, I had an infection called cellulitis, and I received crutches to help me walk. Anyway, my younger brother, who was around 7, wanted to go to the local arcade pizzeria. In this case, let's call it Mike's Pizza and Arcade. My mother, thinking it would be a good idea to go and have some fun, packs us into the car, driving to the arcade pizzeria. Me, a person who enjoys playing old school arcade games, couldn't wait for the fun night ahead of me, but I was in for a rather eventful night. As we entered the arcade pizzeria, I tell my mother I would be happy to pay for all the credits for the arcade since my mother is a single mother raising 2 kids. I thought it was the least I could do. Back to the story. I take my crippled self over to the counter, my younger brother following me. I put $30 on his card and 15 on mine. As I hand him his card, he sprints off into the arcade, playing games like Terminator and the stupid claw machine I told him not to waste his credits on. At this point, the night was actually kind of fun, and my brother had run out of credits an hour later. After we ate some pizza, my brother asks my mom if we can go back to the arcade and play some more games since he still had some credits left. She says sure, and I take my little brother to the arcade. He runs out of credits while playing Terminator and asks me if he can use my card to revive himself. I say sure, but only once. He nods and swipes the card. As he continues to play, I make my way to the Namco gaming thing, which has a variety of old school arcade games. Decided to play some Galaga, and everything was cupcakes and rainbows. Damn, that sounds really gay. until EM and her 2 kids enter. I was playing Galaga, just minding my own business, my crutches leaning against the machine, when all of a sudden I see the mom and her 2 kids approach me. At first I thought they were waiting for me to die so they could play, so I really didn't think too much about it. Until one of the kids takes my crutches. I turn away from the game and say, "Excuse me, bud, those are mine. Can you please put them back?" The child does put them back and returns to his mother, whining about wanting my crutches. The mother whispers into his ear, I'm assuming she told him to take it again because he took them. "Excuse me, miss, but could you please tell your kids to give me my crutches?" "No, I won't. My kids have been behaving so well this week. I thought I'd take them to the arcade and reward them with whatever they want." Her kids standing next to her, changing the crutches to their height. "Lady, if you think your kids are and have been behaving, your definition is way off. Your kids just stole my crutches and you encouraged it." At this point, I'm leaning against the machine so I don't fall. "Are you saying my kids are little thieves? And did you just call me a bad mom?" She takes a step towards me, her kids sword fighting each other with my crutches. I never said terrible, but yes, your kids are thieves. Now give me back my crutches. My little brother was watching from behind a machine, but I had no idea until he told me he was. "I'm sorry, my kids are such angels and deserve it more than you. Besides, what do you even need crutches for? You look perfectly fine." She cuts me off, talking about how her kids need these crutches and how they've been good and shit. At this point, I snap at her. "Listen here, you little defective shit. Give me back my fucking crutches, you fat bitch, and take your shitty demon children with you." Cussing at her probably wasn't the best option since my brother and mother had just arrived. My mother staring at me in shock since I hardly ever cuss. My brother was too busy telling my mom that the lady and her kids had taken my crutches. Now, my mother was filled with anger from me cussing, and that this lady's kids had stolen my crutches. My mother walks towards her children, snatching the crutches out of their hands, her kids crying. My mother hands me back my crutches, I change it back to my height, and we proceed to leave. Then, all of a sudden, this crazy ass bitch yanks one of my crutches and I fall to the floor, in pain. My mother is now tooth and nails with this lady, trying to get back my crutch, and 2 employees pull them apart, asking what happened. I explained the whole situation to them and I was given back my crutches. The lady was kicked out for harassment. My mother later lectured me on my vocabulary that I had used and grabbed me for 2 weeks. But hey, I got my crutches back. Anyway, this is my story. The entire time I was reading this, I could only think of one escalated scenario where instead he was in a wheelchair, and the mother just comes up behind him and dumps him onto the floor of the arcade and lets her 2 little demon children play around on it, bending it, breaking it, violating it, as he sits there in pain, watching as these 2 little gremlins ruin the only form of transportation that he has, while she's out there saying, "My little angels deserve this because they've been good little boys." Anyways, let's get back to the entitled parents. Entitled dad interrupts my shopping to demand that I work. Some backstory. I've been working at Walmart for 6 years, and entitled dad comes into the shop at least twice every week. So we spot each other there all the time, but have never actually spoken before this point. Yesterday, I was off work, so I went to Walmart to do some grocery shopping. Sure, it sucks to be there while I'm not working, but I get an employee discount. Anyway, as I shop, it's not uncommon for people who shop there regularly to recognize me as an associate. However, they usually leave me alone because I'm clearly not working, not wearing my vest or Walmart hat. This time though, entitled dad spotted me shopping. He was in the front of the toy department with his daughter, I think age 6 or 7, when he saw me shopping. It should be easy to see that I am not working. As I said, no vest or hat with Walmart spark. I was also pushing a cart of food and small household needs. ED made his way over to me and just stopped directly in front of my cart to keep me from moving forward. "I need your help to get a bike down from the rack." "I'm sorry, but I'm actually not working right now. I'm sure there's another associate around here who can help you." "But you work here. You have to help. It's your job." "As I said, I'm not working right now. I'm just here to shop." "You shouldn't be here if you're not working. You're here, so do your job." Annoyed, I tried to turn my cart to get around ED. Even though I wasn't on the clock, I didn't want to say anything that could get me in trouble because I was still inside my workplace. I need to get a bike down for my daughter. Are you seriously trying to walk off and not help us? Listen, I'm not allowed to help you while I'm not on the clock. Then just clock in and help me. It'll only take a few minutes. I can't do that. Why not? Because I would need a manager to override. I can't just clock in whenever I want. But as I said, there are other associates here who can help you. Entitled Dad's daughter was getting upset that no one was getting a bike down for her. ED was getting frustrated, as was I. ED glared at me and grabbed his daughter's hand. I'm going to speak to your manager. I can guarantee that you won't have a job after this. You can't treat customers like this. I'm a customer right now too, man, but okay. ED stormed off with his daughter to find a manager. I finished my shopping. Today at work, my manager brought it up to me and said not to worry about it. Some customers just don't understand the fact that employees aren't always working. We don't help you out of the kindness of our hearts. We only help you because we're getting paid to do it. I'd love to find ED's workplace and demand for him to help me on his day off. Hey, I don't care if it's your day off. I need you to go out of your way on your day off so that way my daughter can get her bike. Go get the manager to override your clock shift time so that way my daughter, my little princess, can get exactly what she wants. Because I'm too lazy to go find another associate, and because I see you, that means we're friends, right? Hey everyone, quick little PSA. If you see someone working in retail or fast food, don't be a dick to them. They're people too. Karen the Destroyer breaks my Switch and gives it to her son. So I have an aunt, who we will call Karen the Destroyer, who is an 11 out of 10 on the entitlement scale. One time, my parents decided to invite her family over, as her husband is my dad's brother, and they were quite close. I wanted nothing to do with Karen the Destroyer, so I hid in my room, playing Smash on my Switch when my 8-year-old cousin walks in and asks if he could watch. I agree, as I really didn't mind him at all. He watched for a few matches, then asked if he could play with me. I agree and load up an online game, and pass my spare controller. I go easy on him, and let him kill me a few times, and my aunt walks in. What do you think you're doing to my baby? You should be ashamed of yourself, showing such graphic content to such a small, innocent child. I explained to her that Smash was not inappropriate at all, and that it was completely harmless. She walked towards me, grabbed not only the Switch, but the fucking dock, and pulls the wire out violently, bending the HDMI wire. This is now confiscated, young man, she yelled at me, then passed it to my cousin, saying that he deserved it as an apology for rotting his soul like that, and stormed out of the room. My cousin simply passes it back to me and says that he is sorry the wire got broken. I tell him it was fine and stand up to go confront Karen the Destroyer. I find her in the living room with the rest of the family and explain the situation. My uncle apologized for her behavior and asked her why she did it. She blurted out that we were playing some violent shoot-'em-upper. Who the hell calls it that? My mom quickly tells her that it's a Switch, and the only games I had were Smash, Mario Odyssey, and Mario Kart. My uncle once again apologized and turned on his phone and orders a new wire and Zelda Breath of the Wild as an apology. All this time, Karen the Destroyer is protesting that I don't deserve it, but my uncle simply tells her to shut the flying flamingo fuck up. That car is too good for you. Sell it to my bratty teen now. So let me start off by saying that the outcome of this probably won't be super exciting and doesn't involve much except for basic drama, but I thought it was so absurdly ridiculous that it was worth posting. Apologies for any formatting problems, I'm on a cell phone. Now, anyone that knows me or has met me before winter, made me park it, road salt sucks, knows that I have a nearly fully restored 1981 Chevy Camaro Z28. In bright yellow. I bought it off some dude going through a divorce as a half-finished project. It wasn't in bad shape, but the interior was bombed out and it had some sloppy work that needed correcting. No big deal for me since I'm a mechanic by trade. It's my first real project and the first car I owned that wasn't a hand-me-down from my grandparents, and I am proud of it. Last November, I stopped at a gas station on my way home from work for some gas. That 350's a thirsty girl, lol. And an after-work snack when I see a dude, ED, in his mid-40s to early 50s, walk over to eye up my ride. This is nothing new to me. These late second-gen Camaros are rare to see in my region, and it's painted in an eye-catching color. I pay for my chips and soda, walk on over, and strike up a conversation. Turns out his first car was a 97 Ferrari Berlinetta. And we talk shop for a while. That is until his prissy-looking teenage girl, EB, walks up beside him. He then looks at me, looks back at my car, then back to me and asks, It's definitely beautiful. How much do you want for it? What? How much do you want for your car? I can give you cash or check if you prefer. Proceeds to whip out his checkbook and a stuffed money clip full of Benjamins. Sorry, dude, it's not for sale. Puts on his best buddy smile. Come on, everything has a price. I can do $6 grand right here. Holds back my laughter since the engine alone costs $6K. Yeah, sure, I'll sell you a car with over $14,000 of work and valued at $23,000 for $6 grand. And while you're at it, I have a bridge to sell you too. At this point, the entitled brat comes in. Daddy, you said you'd buy me a nice car. I want a cool car. Entitled dad strokes his daughter's hair and quietly says something to the effect of, "Don't worry, sweetie, we'll get you this one." Turns back to me. Can't you cut us a little slack for this lovely lady? No, still not for sale. You're gonna refuse to sell me a car for my daughter? Really? You should just get rid of it. Look how dirty you are. That car is too nice for someone like you. I bet you don't even know how to take care of it. Yeah, this car is too cool for you. Now I'm getting angry. Like I mentioned before, I'm a mechanic. I'm coming home from work, still in my work clothes, with an ASE patch on my shoulder, with a bit of grime on my arms and face from a long day of fixing other people's rust buckets. There should be no mistaking that I know how to take care of my ride, or so I thought. Sir, I've done all the work to this car. I put the engine and transmission in it, I rebuilt the suspension, I detailed the paint, and I restored the interior all on my own. I think I'd know how to take care of the vehicle I basically rebuilt from the ground up. No, you didn't. That work looks too good for you to have done it. Yeah, I did. Whatever, just sell it. You can find another project. Let me think. No. Now take your daughter and get lost. I'm not budging. At this point, EB is whining to Daddy that he said he would sell it. And I thought I maybe saw a tear in her eye. And then Edie turned red in the face and started tearing into me about how I was selfish, about how his little girl deserved the car more than I did. And then jabs that I probably made the whole thing up about it being a project and I probably stole it. And now I will definitely not sell it to you. After all, your brat will probably wreck it in a couple weeks anyway. Now I'm tired and I'm going to go home. At this point, I'm opening the door and getting in while they both are screaming every insult in the book at me while I just ignore it. I wasn't lying when I said I was tired, and now I just wanted to go home and have a beer. Now, I forgot to mention that this gas station happens to be situated at a county border, next to an exit ramp for a very busy interstate. It's a local hangout for the state police and sheriff's deputies from both counties. And guess who just rolled in? A sheriff's deputy from the county I work in. The same deputy who entrusts me with their patrol car's maintenance, who I have become quick friends with and is friends with everyone at work. And got glimpses into the progress on my Camaro. We'll call him Sheriff Friend, or SF. He notices the two screaming at me and walks over to ask what the problem is. Officer, I'd like to report that this kid's car is stolen, and I'd like to press charges for calling my daughter a brat. Sir, this car definitely belongs to him. I've seen him working on it before at every shop he works at. OP, are these folks giving you a hard time? Yeah, they're flipping out because I wouldn't sell it to them. Really? Yup. Sir, you gave him an offer and he refused. You then proceeded to verbally abuse him worse than the jab he made at your daughter. I believe you should just leave. Title Dad looks shocked and his mouth imitates a goldfish for a few seconds before he hangs his head and mutters, "Okay," and walks off with EB, now wailing that she doesn't get my car. I thank him and we say our goodbyes, and just as a final jab, I cue up "You Can't Always Get What You Want" by the Rolling Stones as I start to pull out. Entitled Dad immediately recognized the song I was playing and flipped me off. Yeah, nobody got arrested or got the piss beat out of them, but it's easily one of the most surreal moments I've had in my life. Oh, and I had a nice, relaxing drive home after that, and a quiet evening watching TV. Do I need to point out that the father was spoiled as a child because he drove a Ferrari as a kid? Do I need to point that out? No? Okay, cool.
Hey, you made it to the outro. Don't forget that this whole thing is pretty much brought to you by GamerSupps. Use code EYES at checkout. If you like caffeine, this is basically the thing for you. Not to mention, every sale made using code EYES at checkout gets me a little bit in return. You support the channel by using that code. Plus, GamerSupps isn't chock full of that extra stuff that you would find in a pre-workout blend, so you can get that caffeine that you love without putting stuff in your system that's made for you to be exercising with it, which is phenomenal. I love this stuff. I actively use it. Personally, my current favorite flavor is actually Dragon Fruit Punch or Soda Pressing Pear. These two, love them so much. Drink them on a daily basis, essentially. So yeah, go use code odds at checkout and support the channel. They also have a section so if you don't like anime, you don't have to have a bunch of degenerate shit.